I was staring right at my neighbor's chest, and she was looking directly back at me. My name is Ryan Carter, and this is the story of the most embarrassing moment of my entire life. Let me back up and explain how I ended up in this nightmare situation. I'm a graphic designer, which sounds really cool until you realize it means I sit at my computer all day and night making logos and websites for people who are never happy with what I create. I moved to Harbor Bay 8 months ago because I thought living near the ocean would make me feel better about my life. I was wrong. I still worked all the time. I still felt tired every single day. I still had no friends. My apartment had a great view of the water, but I barely looked at it because I was always staring at my computer screen instead. My neighbor Emma lived in the apartment right next to mine. We shared a wall. Sometimes I could hear her music through it, soft jazz that played in the evenings. We'd see each other in the hallway maybe once a week. She'd smile and say hi. I'd say hi back. That was it. Our entire relationship was just two people saying hi and then walking away. She always looked really professional, like she was about to go to an important business meeting even when she was just checking her mailbox. Her blonde hair was always perfect, pulled back tight. She wore nice clothes even on weekends. I figured she probably thought I was a mess because I usually wore the same hoodie 3 days in a row. One Sunday afternoon, I decided I needed to get out of my apartment before I went completely crazy. I'd been working for 17 days straight without a real break. My eyes hurt from looking at screens. My back hurt from sitting in my cheap desk chair. I grabbed this old folding chair from my closet that I'd bought when I first moved but never used. I threw on some shorts and a t-shirt. I didn't even bother to check if my hair looked okay. I walked down to Shoreline Beach, which was only 4 blocks from my building. The sand was warm under my feet. The sound of waves crashing made me feel calm for the first time in weeks. There were families everywhere. Kids building sand castles, people throwing frisbees, couples holding hands. I found a spot away from the crowd and set up my chair. I brought a book with me, some thriller about a detective solving murders. I opened it and tried to read, but my brain kept thinking about work. I had 3 projects due next week. I should probably be home working on them right now. What was I doing at the beach? But then I told myself no, I needed this break. I needed to be a normal person for just a few hours. I forced myself to look around and watch other people instead of worrying about work. That's when I saw her. Emma was about 30 feet away from me, setting up a big blue beach umbrella with another woman. I almost didn't recognize her at first. Her hair was down, falling past her shoulders in loose waves. She wore a bright yellow swimsuit and a white beach wrap tied around her waist. She was laughing at something her friend said, a real laugh, not the polite smile I saw in our apartment hallway. She looked so different, so relaxed. For a second, I thought about going over to say hi, but that felt weird. We barely talked in our own building. Why would I walk up to her at the beach? So I looked back down at my book and tried to read. But I kept glancing over at her spot. Couldn't help it. She and her friend were spreading out towels and putting sunscreen on. They looked like they were having fun. Emma's friend pulled out her phone and started talking, her face getting more and more annoyed. She stood up and walked toward the water, waving her hand around like she was arguing with whoever was on the phone. Emma sat there alone, digging through a big canvas bag. She pulled out what looked like sunglasses and a water bottle. Then she reached for her beach wrap. She stood up and started adjusting it, pulling it tighter around herself. Right at that exact moment, a huge gust of wind came out of nowhere. It was so strong that an umbrella a few yards away from me almost flew into the air. I watched as the wind grabbed Emma's beach wrap and yanked it completely off her body before she could grab it. For maybe 2 or 3 seconds, she was standing there exposed from the waist up, and I was looking right at her. I couldn't look away fast enough. My brain froze. Then our eyes met across all that sand and all those people. Her face went from surprise to shock to horrified in about half a second. Her hands flew up to catch the fabric. She grabbed it and wrapped it around herself super fast, but it was too late. She'd seen me looking. I'd seen her seeing me looking. My face felt like it was on fire. I jerked my eyes down to my book so hard I almost hurt my neck. My heart was pounding like I'd just run a mile. I stared at the page, not reading a single word, just staring. All I could think was that I'd just become the creepy guy at the beach. The weird neighbor who stares at women. It didn't matter that it was an accident. It didn't matter that the wind had terrible timing. What mattered was that Emma had caught me looking at her chest, and now I'd have to see her in our hallway for as long as I lived in that building. Maybe I should move. Maybe I should move to a different city. Maybe I should dig a hole in the sand and live there forever. I kept my eyes locked on my book. I read the same sentence over and over. The detective knew something was wrong the moment he entered the room. I must have read that sentence 20 times. Minutes passed, or maybe just seconds. Time felt broken. I wanted to pack up my chair and run to my car, but I was too embarrassed to move. What if she was still looking at me? What if everyone at the beach saw what happened and they were all staring at me? I risked the tiniest glance up from my book, just barely lifting my eyes. Emma was talking to her friend, who'd come back from her phone call. They were both looking in my direction. My stomach dropped to my feet. This was it. She was probably telling her friend about the creep who'd been staring at her. They were probably about to come over and yell at me, or call the police. Do people get arrested for accidentally seeing someone at the beach? I started making a plan in my head. I'd wait exactly 5 more minutes. Then I'd grab my chair and walk calmly to the parking lot. Not running, because running would make it worse. Just walking like a normal person who definitely didn't just have the worst moment of his entire life. But then something happened that I didn't expect. I saw movement in the corner of my eye. Someone walking across the sand. Please be someone else, I thought. Please just be a random person walking to the water. But the footsteps stopped right next to my chair. A shadow fell across my book. I looked up slowly, already knowing what I'd see. Emma Wallace stood there, still wrapped in her beach cover, her sunglasses pushed up on top of her head. Her face wasn't angry like I expected. She just looked at me with this expression I couldn't quite figure out. "Hey," she said. Just that one word. I tried to respond, but my mouth wasn't working right. I managed to stammer out something like, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. It was the wind. I wasn't trying to." She held up her hand to stop me. "It's fine," she said. Her voice was calm, which confused me even more. These beach wraps are awful when it's windy. Can we talk for a minute? Talk? My brain short-circuited. Why would she want to talk to me? But I couldn't exactly say no. I gestured to the empty space on my beach towel. She sat down right there next to me, like this was a completely normal situation, like we sat together at the beach all the time. "I've been meaning to introduce myself properly," she said. "I mean, we've been neighbors for 8 months and we barely know each other. That's kind of strange, right?" I blinked at her. Yeah, I guess so. My friend Melissa had to take a work call." Emma continued, pointing toward the woman who was still pacing by the water with her phone. "I was sitting there by myself and I saw you over here and I thought, you know what, maybe this is a sign. Maybe I should actually try to be friendly to my neighbor instead of just saying hi in the hallway and running away." She paused. Though I didn't plan for the universe to create quite such a dramatic icebreaker. Despite everything, despite how embarrassed I still felt, I smiled a tiny bit. "That's one way to put it. Look, the wind caught my wrap," she said. "It happens to everyone at the beach eventually. I'm not here to make this awkward." "You're not?" I managed to say. "No. Actually, I wanted to apologize to you." "Wait, what?" I was totally lost now. "Why would you apologize?" "Because I've been a terrible neighbor," Emma said. "You moved in 8 months ago and I've barely said 2 words to you besides hi and the trash pickup is on Wednesdays." She laughed nervously. "My friend Melissa, she's always telling me I need to be more social, that I work too much and never talk to anyone. And she's right. I saw you sitting here alone, reading your book, and I thought this is my chance to actually be a decent human being. Then the wind happened and, well," she shook her head. "I guess the universe wanted to make sure we'd have something to talk about. So, Ryan Carter," she said, and I was surprised she knew my name. "What do you do for work? I mean, I know you work from home because I can hear you typing through the wall sometimes late at night, but I don't know what kind of work keeps you up until midnight." "Graphic design," I said. "I'm freelance, so I work with different clients on logos, websites, that kind of stuff." It sounds better than it is. Freelance basically means I never stop working. "Tell me about it," Emma said. I'm a marketing strategist. Also remote. I thought moving here from Boston would help me slow down, but I just brought all my stress with me. Now I disappoint myself with a better view. That's exactly how I feel, I said. Like, what was the point of moving if nothing actually got better? We kept talking, and it was weird how easy it felt. Like we'd been friends forever instead of strangers who happened to live next to each other. Emma asked me about my favorite design projects. I asked her about her most difficult clients. She told me about a company that wanted her to triple their sales in 2 weeks with no budget. I told her about a guy who wanted a website that looked professional but also fun but also serious but also creative, and then hated everything I made. Why do people always think they know better than the person they hired? Emma asked. Because they're paying us, I said. So they think that means they automatically have good taste. We laughed about that. Then Emma got quiet for a second. Can I ask you something kind of personal? She said. Sure, I said, even though I felt nervous again. How do you think people find balance? She asked. Like really find it between work and life without feeling guilty all the time? I thought about it. Honestly, I have no idea. I'm definitely not the person to ask. She smiled. Fair enough. But you moved here trying to find it, right? That's more than most people do. I guess, I said, though moving didn't actually solve anything. I'm just burned out in a different location now. At least the view is better, Emma said, pointing at the ocean. The waves were rolling in, steady and calm. We talked about work and stress and why we both kept pushing ourselves so hard even though we knew it wasn't healthy. We talked about the coffee shop down the street that made terrible coffee but had amazing muffins. We talked about how we both loved living near the water but barely had time to actually enjoy it. This was the kind of conversation I hadn't had in months, maybe years. The kind where you're not trying to impress anyone or prove anything. Just two people actually talking. Eventually, Melissa finished her phone call and walked back toward us. She looked tired and annoyed, but also curious about why Emma was sitting with some random guy. Emma stood up. I should get back, she said. But thank you for this. For not making it weird. For actually talking to me like a person. Thank you for coming over, I said. I mean it. After Emma introduced me to Melissa, who seemed nice but distracted, Emma turned back to me. Hey, there's a neighborhood gathering next Saturday evening, she said. Some of the people from our building organize one every month at the community center. You should come. I'd like that, I said. Good, Emma replied. I'll text you the details. She pulled out her phone. What's your number? I need to make sure you actually show up and don't just hide in your apartment. We exchanged numbers, and as Emma walked back to her spot with Melissa, I sat there trying to process what just happened. The most embarrassing moment of my life had somehow turned into something completely different. Something that felt like maybe, possibly, the start of an actual friendship. I stayed at the beach for another hour, but I wasn't really reading my book anymore. I was thinking about Emma, about how wrong I'd been about her. She wasn't this perfect, put-together person who had her life figured out. She was just like me, stressed, overworked, trying to figure things out. And she'd been brave enough to walk over and talk to me after what happened. That took guts. For days went by before I heard from Emma again. For days where I kept checking my phone, wondering if she'd actually text or if she'd changed her mind. Then on Thursday evening, while I was eating leftover pizza and working on a logo design, my phone buzzed. The text message said neighborhood gathering this Saturday at 6. Then another message popped up right after. Also, do you like Thai food? I stared at my phone screen, reading the messages 3 times to make sure they were real. My heart started beating faster. I typed back, yeah, I'll be there, and yes, why? A few seconds passed. There's a new Thai restaurant on Harbor Street, Emma wrote. Want to try it before the gathering? We could walk over to the community center together after. My hands felt shaky as I typed my response. Sounds good, what time? I'll knock on your door at 5, she replied. You're literally right next door, I don't need to pick you up. I wrote back. Fine, she responded. I'll knock and we can walk the 10 feet to my car together. I sent back a thumbs up and sat there staring at my phone like an idiot, smiling at nothing. Saturday took forever to arrive. I kept working on my projects but couldn't focus properly. I catch myself thinking about what to wear, which was stupid because it wasn't like a date or anything. We were just neighbors getting food. Still, when Saturday finally came, I tried on 4 different shirts before settling on a dark blue button-up with the sleeves rolled up. At exactly 5 o'clock, someone knocked on my door. I opened it and there was Emma, wearing a light green sundress, her hair down and wavy. She looked nervous, which somehow made me feel less nervous. "Ready?" she asked. The Thai restaurant was small, tucked between a bookstore and a flower shop. Inside, it smelled incredible, like garlic and spices and something sweet I couldn't identify. We got a table by the window. The menu had way too many options. "We should just order a bunch of things and share," Emma suggested. "That way we can try everything." We ended up ordering 5 different dishes, way more food than 2 people needed. While we waited, Emma told me about a client who wanted her to create a marketing campaign for a product that didn't exist yet. "They don't even have the product made," she said. "They just have this idea, and they want me to make people excited about buying something that might not ever be real." "That's insane," I said. "Welcome to my life," Emma replied, but she was smiling. The food arrived and we passed plates back and forth, trying everything. Emma was right, sharing was better. We talked about our worst client stories. She told me about someone who paid her, didn't like her work, then used it anyway without telling her. I told her about a client who asked for 73 revisions on a simple logo design. 73? Emma said. "That's not a client, that's a hostage situation." We laughed so hard that people at other tables looked over at us. Then Emma reached across and touched my arm while she was telling another story. Just a light touch, but electricity shot through me. My whole arm felt warm where her hand had been. "Why do you work so much?" Emma asked suddenly, her voice getting quieter. "Like really, what drives you to work 16, 17 hours a day?" I thought about it for a minute. Fear mostly, I admitted. Fear of what? Fear of not being good enough. Fear of failing. Fear of ending up broke and having to move back home. I paused. Work is the only thing that makes sense to me. It has clear rules. You do the work, you get paid. Simple. But life's not simple, Emma said softly. Life is messy and complicated and full of things that don't have clear rules. She looked down at her plate. "That's what makes me anxious." "Can I tell you something?" Emma asked. "Of course. I moved here 3 years ago," she said. "I told myself I was going to build a whole new life. Work less, make friends, pick up hobbies, actually enjoy being alive instead of just surviving." She took a breath. "But I didn't do any of that. I just moved my old problems to a new place. The only thing that's different is my apartment has a better view of the ocean." "That's exactly how I feel," I said. "I know," Emma replied. "I could tell from the moment we talked at the beach. We're the same, you and me. We're both running from things we can't escape. So what do we do?" I asked. "I don't know," Emma said, "but maybe we can figure it out together." We finished eating and drove to the community center. The gathering was already packed with people from our building and the surrounding area. Within 5 minutes, Mrs. Chun was trying to introduce me to her daughter who lived in Seattle. An older man named Frank cornered me to explain his theory about the best time to go fishing. A couple named Sarah and Mike told me about their 3 cats in extreme detail. Through everything, Emma stayed close. When we finally managed to escape the crowd, we walked outside to the back patio where it was quieter. "That was intense," I said. "They mean well," Emma replied. I'm not good at that stuff. All the small talk and pretending to care about things I don't care about." "Me neither," I admitted. "I'd rather have one real conversation than 50 fake ones." We walked down the path behind the community center that led to a small park overlooking the water. The sun was starting to set, painting the sky orange and pink. "Can I ask you something personal?" Emma said. "Sure." "Why did you really move here?" she asked. "Not the burnout story you tell everyone. What were you actually running from?" I took a deep breath. Myself, I think. The person I was turning into back in Seattle. This guy who measured his worth by how productive he was. Who couldn't remember the last time he did something just because it was fun. Who was so focused on success that he forgot what success even meant. Emma nodded slowly. I did the same thing in Boston. I became this person who said yes to everything. Who put work above friends, above family, above my own health. I couldn't even tell you what I liked anymore, because I'd spent so long just doing what other people expected. Did moving here help? I asked. Not the way I hoped, she said honestly. But maybe that's okay. Maybe we don't need to run away from our problems. Maybe we just need to stop and actually deal with them. I looked at her, really looked at her. The sunset was reflecting in her eyes. Is that what you're trying to do? I asked. I'm trying, she said. Some days are better than others. Today has been a really good day. Yeah, I agreed. Today has been incredible. Something shifted between us in that moment. The air felt charged, like right before a thunderstorm. Emma stepped closer to me. There's this fundraiser next Saturday night, she said. For the Ocean Conservation Society. It's at the old boathouse on the pier. I bought tickets months ago but didn't have anyone to go with. Would you want to come? She paused. As my date? The word date hung in the air between us, making everything real and official. I'd love to, I said. Emma smiled, a genuine smile that reached her eyes. Good. It's semi-formal, so you'll need to wear something nicer than your usual hoodie. I can manage that, I replied. We walked back slowly, neither of us wanting the evening to end. When we reached our building, Emma stopped at her door. Thank you for tonight, she said. For dinner and for talking to me like I'm not crazy for feeling the way I feel. You're not crazy, I said. We're just trying to figure things out. Good night, Ryan, Emma said. She squeezed my hand once, then went inside. I stood in the hallway for a minute, just smiling like an idiot. Something was building between us. Something real and solid and terrifying. Saturday morning arrived and I was standing in front of my closet, staring at my clothes like they were going to give me advice. I owned exactly 2 dress shirts and 1 pair of dress pants. This was not enough options. My phone buzzed. Don't stress about what to wear, Emma's text said. Semi-formal just means not shorts and a t-shirt. Though I'm wearing the green dress I've been saving for something special. That didn't help my stress at all. I tried on both shirts 3 times each before deciding on the gray one. When evening came, I walked the 10 feet to Emma's door and knocked. She opened it and I forgot how to breathe for a second. Emma wore an emerald green dress that made her blonde hair look almost gold. She'd done something different with her makeup. She looked amazing. You look really nice, I managed to say. So do you, Emma replied, reaching out to straighten my tie a little. Ready? The old boathouse had been turned into an event space. White lights were strung across the ceiling. Round tables were scattered around the room. Big windows showed the ocean outside, dark and endless. There were maybe 100 people there, all dressed up, holding wine glasses and talking in that way adults talk at fancy events. Emma knew a few people and introduced me. I shook hands and nodded and tried to remember names, but honestly, I was too focused on Emma, on how her hand felt in mine, on how natural it felt to be standing next to her. After about an hour of mingling, music started playing. People moved to the dance floor. Want to dance? Emma asked. I'm terrible at dancing, I warned her. Good thing I'm not judging, she said. We moved to the floor and I tried my best to not step on her feet. I was awkward and stiff, worried about doing it wrong. Then Emma stepped closer and rested her head against my shoulder. Suddenly, the steps didn't matter anymore. I'm really glad you're here with me, Emma whispered. There's nowhere else I'd want to be, I replied. We danced for a few more songs. Then Emma said she needed some air. We walked out to the deck that wrapped around the building. The ocean stretched out below us, waves crashing against the pier supports. The sound was soothing, steady, and constant. Can I tell you something? Emma asked, leaning against the railing. Anything. That day at the beach, she started, then stopped. When the wind caught my wrap and you saw me, I wasn't embarrassed because you looked. I was embarrassed because part of me wanted you to notice me. Wait, what? I turned to face her. I'd been watching you for weeks, Emma continued. Every time I saw you in the hallway, I wanted to actually talk to you, but I didn't know how. I was so caught up in my own head, so closed off from everyone. She looked at me. When that moment happened, it forced us both to acknowledge each other. It sounds crazy, but I was almost grateful for it. It doesn't sound crazy, I said, moving closer to her. I've been wanting to talk to you too, but you always seemed so together, so professional. I figured you wouldn't be interested in the stressed-out graphic designer next door. That's exactly why I was interested, Emma said quietly. Because you understood what it's like to struggle even when everything looks fine from the outside. I reached up and tucked a piece of hair behind her ear. Emma, I know we've only really known each other for a few weeks, but this isn't just a casual thing for me. You've become the best part of my day. Every day. Her eyes got shiny with tears. You've become that for me too, she said. And it scares me because I don't want to mess this up. Then let's promise not to, I said. Let's promise to be honest with each other. To actually talk when things get hard instead of shutting down. I can do that, Emma whispered. Then I kissed her. It was soft and sweet and felt like coming home to a place I'd never been before. When we pulled apart, Emma was smiling. That was worth waiting for, she said. We stayed on that deck for a long time, talking about what we wanted from life. Emma admitted she'd been thinking about cutting back on clients, maybe teaching marketing classes online instead. I told her about my dream of creating websites for schools and nonprofits, places that actually helped people but couldn't afford expensive designers. We could do that together, Emma suggested. Combine what we're both good at. Build something that actually matters. You'd want to work with me? I asked. I think we make a good team, she said. In work and in everything else. Driving home, Emma reached over and took my hand. Thank you for being patient with me, she said. For giving me time to figure out what I wanted. Thank you for taking a chance on the awkward guy next door who accidentally saw you topless. I replied. Emma laughed. Best accident ever. The next few months were like nothing I'd experienced before. We fell into this easy rhythm. Emma would come over and we'd cook dinner together, usually making a mess and ordering pizza when we burned things. We worked side by side during the day, her at my kitchen table, me at my desk. We took walks on the beach at sunset, not talking about work, just being together. Emma opened up about her past. About the relationship that fell apart because she'd put work first. About her fear of never being good enough. I shared my own struggles. My anxiety that kept me awake at night. The way I'd almost given up on finding real connection with anyone. We weren't perfect. We had arguments about stupid things like whose turn it was to take out the trash. We had moments of doubt where old fears crept back in. But we talked through them just like we'd promised. 3 months after the fundraiser, I woke up to find a piece of paper slipped under my door. It was a note from Emma in her neat handwriting. Meet me at the pier at sunrise. Bring coffee. When I got there, Emma was standing by the water, looking out at the horizon. The sky was starting to lighten, turning from dark blue to soft purple. I've been thinking, she said as I handed her a coffee, about that business idea, building websites and marketing for nonprofits together. Yeah, I said. I want to do it, Emma said. I want to build something with you, something that actually helps people instead of just making money. She turned to face me, and not just the business. I want to build a real life with you, Ryan. One where we both make time for what matters, where we support each other, where we don't lose ourselves in work or fear anymore. I set down my coffee and pulled her close. I want that too, I said, more than anything. As the sun came up over the ocean, turning everything gold and pink, I realized something important. Sometimes the most embarrassing, uncomfortable moments push us toward the connections we need most. That awful day at the beach had forced both of us to stop hiding. Natalie looked up at me, her eyes bright in the early light.